Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by again. Look, for my regular viewers, this will be a bit of a different video, but today I want to talk about World of Warcraft Classic. I think this is really important to me because World of Warcraft has been something that has been a part of my life since 2005. The game came out in 2004, but I played it from relatively close to the beginning, and I want to talk about how this new old version, World of Warcraft Classic, has in many ways brought the world back into the game. So for those who don't know, World of Warcraft came out in 2004, and while it wasn't the first MMORPG, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, it was the one that mainstreamed and popularized and defined the genre going forward. Once World of Warcraft came out, all future MMOs would be compared, favorably or otherwise, to what World of Warcraft had done originally and what it's been doing since. And World of Warcraft has been doing a lot since its original launch in the mid-2000s. The game has undergone various expansions that have added new content, new zones, new dungeons, new bosses to the game, but it's also undergone various mechanical changes and various changes to the game's fairly fundamental, base rock systems, to the point where the game is very different today than it was back in 2005 during the original run. Now, a lot of people have noted that the additions to the game have improved the quality of life, have made the game a little bit less grating, a little bit less of a grind, a little bit less of a slog. And they're not wrong. But the reason why I was excited for World of Warcraft Classic, and the reason why I feel it's important that it's back, is that it, one, brings back the world into World of Warcraft, and two, brings back the sense of community and solidarity to World of Warcraft. Both of those things have largely disappeared from the current iteration of World of Warcraft. The reality is that while cooperation and teamwork is still needed in World of Warcraft today when you're playing at the most, advanced levels, doing the most, up-to-date content at the highest difficulties, day-to-day, hour-to-hour play is effectively done as a single-player game. You might line up with people in dungeons, but you don't talk to them. You don't converse with them. You don't need to. You don't need to have any teamwork. You don't need to have any sense that the game is a multiplayer online game. In effect, the other human beings you play with might as well be NPCs. They might as well be non-player characters in some of the, lower level and non-elite content of current World of Warcraft. And likewise, the world of World of Warcraft today is so atomized, it's so disconnected, it's effectively dismembered in a way that is really sad. The world still exists, everything's still there. The World of Warcraft today is much bigger than it was when it launched, because the original zones, the original continents are there, but they've added other continents and other islands and other dimensions and other realms that you can explore. The world's bigger than ever, and yet it's smaller than it was back at the beginning of the game. The ability to move around in the world is fundamentally easier now, and I think that removes the importance of space. It removes the importance of time. It removes the importance of travel. It removes the importance of your place in the world, like metaphorically, but also literally. This got me thinking about Game of Thrones in some ways, how people complained in the last couple seasons how the world was lost, and all of a sudden, everyone just fast traveled. Arya and Sandor just fast traveling from the north to King's Landing, and what would have been, during the earlier seasons, a great season-long plot to develop those characters further, to explore them from an intellectual perspective, is just now done off screen, and suddenly they're in the Red Keep. They're there already, without any conflict, without any, development, without any, exposition, nothing. And likewise with World of Warcraft today, your ability to fly, your ability to transport, all of these things remove your ability to really enjoy the world and really be part of the world. And I mean, I wasn't an elite player in the original World of Warcraft by any means, but I did some raiding, and I remember very fondly going to Onyxia's lair. And it wasn't even the fights itself that were really special, but rather I distinctly remember those times where you take the boat to Theramore, and with your whole guild, with your whole raid group, you'd run across the marsh into the lair, and you'd summon the few people that couldn't make it, and that was all part of the build-up. The build-up to the experience was the travel. Nowadays, everyone just auto-pops in, and I know that for elite raiding, you have to go to the dungeon, but with the ability to move now like never before, and the ability to transport, and having multiple hearthstones, meaning that you can sort of place them in the world, in effect, it loses that. There's no run to Onyxia's lair from Theramore where you take the boat from Eastern Kingdoms, and that's just one example of what's lost today in this world, in modern World of Warcraft. And this connects to this idea of community, because the loss of the world removes that community sense. You don't just pass people anymore. If you do, you just ignore them. You literally walk by other human beings in a game about online play as if they were just, NPCs that are in the game anyway. And this is driven by the looking for dungeon and looking for raid and auto queue systems, both within the game but also facilitated through third-party apps that effectively make communication superfluous to the actual day-to-day management of the game itself. And it also ties into the fact that with raid finders, that with dungeon finders, you actually find yourself teleporting into the dungeons instantly. So the loss of direct communication is combined with the loss of the world. It used to be that if you wanted to run a dungeon, you had to find some people to run it with. Either they were in your guild, or on your friends list, or you found them through travels, or you found them through, talking with people in the city, and then you would have to travel to the dungeon. You would have to physically go there. You would have to explore the area, go on a treacherous journey in some cases, to get to the dungeon, to conquer it. The world mattered. The dungeon was a part of the world. It wasn't this dismembered, thing floating off in the sky that you auto-teleported to when your group formed. And so, World of Warcraft Classic brings all of this back. It brings all of the community back. It brings all of the connection back. It brings the world back. And just a couple quick stories. I have only touched the surface of replaying World of Warcraft Classic. Right now my character is, I think, level 11. And just going through Elwyn Forest, you talk to people. People give each other buffs as they walked by. People help each other. People talk about where to find things. People talk about strategies again. None of that happened before. People would just, go through their business and not interact. And I've seen much more interaction in these first couple days back in World of Warcraft Classic than I have in months of, the 2019 World of Warcraft. I think further to all that, you notice that, teamwork is back. People forming parties to do quests more efficiently. Killing elites at the low levels now still requires groups. You can't just beat Hogger on your own. At least most characters can't. Most classes can't. You need to form groups to do that. I have a great story here about how after I finished with Elwyn Forest, I went to Dunmora to do the quest to kill Vagash. And I met up with these two characters, and we had a great chat while the third one was on the way to the quest point. And we talked about Classic, and neither of them had played Classic. One of them had, but had only gotten to level 20 before Burning Crusade came out. And it was this great chat we had where I told them that World of Warcraft Classic was this special experience, and that it was very different from regular World of Warcraft, and they were in for a treat. And we talked about strategies to kill a level 12 elite boss, because we needed to think about, okay, the hunter has, this amount of aggro, and the warrior doesn't really have a lot of level behind him, so we need to be careful with all of that and not pull too much aggro. And it was this big chat we had to kill a level 12 boss. Now, was that all necessary? Certainly not, but I think that the world having real danger in it now, real consequence in it now, is getting people to communicate more. And right after that, I went to the Golbalar Quarry to kill some trogs. And there, we had to go into the quarry to kill some bone snappers. And what I saw was that this was not a cakewalk. It was actually dangerous. I'm playing as a mage, which makes it especially dangerous, but even with a, less squishy class, the high respawn rates, the fact that taking on two enemies at once can be very dangerous, all of these things made it so much more exciting and meaningful. And I teamed up with a hunter who was a couple levels lower than me, and we had to fight our way into the cavern, and we died once because we pulled more than we could chew, a respawn happened behind us and ambushed us, and all of that made it so much more special when we finished the quest and we had to fight our way out. We had to look around the corners and manage our pulls for a level 9 quest. It was incredibly exhilarating that this early in the game we're doing these things. I talked with this person after and they were like, thanks so much, man. If I didn't have you here, that would have been really hard to do. I really appreciate it. And that was more interaction in a few minutes in a level 9 zone than I've had in months and months and months of playing mainstream, 2019 World of Warcraft. This is why Classic is really special. Again, I could go on and on and on, but Classic is bringing back the world. The world has meaning now. The way you travel through it has an actual purposefulness to it. And most importantly is the community. I'm actually teaming up with people. I'm actually helping people. People are helping me. The danger of the world, the challenge of the game, has brought back this sense that the original World of Warcraft tried to capture, which is that you're just a regular hero in a very dangerous world. And on your own, it's going to be impossible to achieve greatness and even very difficult to survive. You need to find allies. You need to find friends. You need to build teams. You need to work together to build, a strong, group of heroes that will take on the biggest and baddest enemies of the land. And that's what's happening in World of Warcraft Classic, which is so different from the, largely individualized role of modern World of Warcraft. The whole narrative of the game is that you're this special hero. You're this anointed great figure who has their own, garrison or their own spaceship or their own mini army, and you're this great person who is destined to save the world as an individual. And the game is designed around that you're already this great figure that's on par with a lot of the NPCs in some ways. But in this version of World of Warcraft, you're just some guy, or you're just some gal, who has a little bit of skill as a mage, or a paladin, or a rogue, or a hunter, or a warrior, but you're just trying to make it in the world as an adventurer to try to do better for your people, for your faction, for your race, for your class, what have you. And you're going around and doing those things. And I think that fits the methodology, that fits the philosophy of an MMO much better. That fits the philosophy of what World of Warcraft was intended to create much better. That's why World of Warcraft Classic is speaking to people in a way that I don't think everyone expected. A lot of people are saying this is driven by nostalgia, and I have no doubt that nostalgia is playing a role. There are some things about Classic that are just inconvenient for the sake of inconvenient. And I think that if I was to redesign Classic, I would add some of the quality of life improvements that we see in modern 2019 World of Warcraft. But I don't think the primary draw of Classic is nostalgia. I think the primary draw of Classic is that it is a better MMORPG. From certain technical aspects, World of Warcraft today is a better game. It's a better production, but it's not a better MMORPG. It's not a better sense of community and solidarity. It's not a better sense of world building and world situating. In no way is it better at that. And I think that people who are playing Classic right now have some elements of nostalgia within them. But at the end of the day, they're being driven by this desire for community and this desire for a place in the world. And the modern World of Warcraft doesn't offer that. So what my hope is, honestly, is that Classic continues to do well. That Classic continues to draw great levels of support from former and current World of Warcraft players. I hope that they continue to add some of the old expansions on, like Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, once that, Classic has run through the content stages. But I really hope, with my heart of hearts, maybe this is optimistic, that the success of Classic informs design on the main game. That they don't abandon all of what they've done over the last few years, but that they realize that people want something they're not getting from the base game. That Classic is filling some void that goes beyond, this is the game I played when I was 17, ergo, I want to play it again. It goes to the community building, the world situating, the role of the character in the world. All of those things are very different. And I think that if they want to improve World of Warcraft, to bring back the energy, to bring it back to the heights it had in the late 2000s, early 2010s, then I think the way to do it is to look at what Classic is doing right and add it to the base game. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Most of my content isn't video game related, but I do talk about video games and popular culture every now and then. So if you like this video, you may well like some of my other stuff. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.